Good morning. I just came back to Athens from my quick trip, well, not so quick, to the United States. I've been for the past 10 days in New York, generating some new leads for the company and talking with inspiring people. And there is where I actually had this, amazing idea about bringing to Role Model for a Cause interviews one amazing woman, one inspiring woman, someone that I really call a friend, and I'm really blessed that she's in my life. Why? Because actually being able to expand your social idea that you're doing locally in a global level, this is gold. This is why I have today with us Miss Meg Pagani. Margherita, I'm so happy you're here with us.
Hello, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So Meg, I am one of the luckiest people in the world because I know you for the past 3 years. So today, I need you to explain to us and take us step by step on what exactly is Impact On. I mean, we can understand from the name that is something you can actually get the impact going, but I need your own story and your own idea on what inspired you to bring Impact On to life and how is Impact On working.
Well, yes, I am actually the lucky person to have known you since forever. So every time that I come to Greece, I can meet you and catch up. So Impact On, it's a project that now has about a year of life. And it somehow was inspired by knowing so many, as you do, social entrepreneurs and social activists and social projects that are simply brilliant. Like you see this project and you say, God, this needs to happen everywhere. But then from a finance perspective and an operational perspective, most of the time you just look at them and you understand that the operational structure or the margins that they have are just not enough to make that solution or that project scale everywhere is needed with their own forces. Because let's be honest, people that are brilliant at solving a social problem somewhere or tackling it for that matters, they're doing it because they know where it happens. They know the context, they know how it works, they know the actors around them. So they're not necessarily even the best people to make it happen in another context, in another country. But does that mean that their formula cannot be at least used to build upon it? Why then don't we focus on having someone that can just work as a backbone organization, that can figure out a model to look at all these projects that are tackling social or environmental challenges in a very brilliant, sustainable, effective way? And just extract their formulas, or how we call that, a blueprint, and make it available for other people to work on, to adapt, to improve, and actually putting them in contact with each other. Because the original creator of a formula can learn from how someone else is actually doing it somewhere else. And so I started thinking about all this, and to be honest, I was doubting about it at the beginning, because I'm like, of course someone is doing this. I mean, it sounds so logical to me that, of course, someone is doing it. Maybe I will just find them and join their team or whatever. And then I figured that nobody was doing this. Not in a way that really would empower people and really apply the open source formula or mindset or the micro franchising one. Not anymore to just restaurants or cafes, but to actual projects that are improving people's lives.
Okay. So you have to give me an example, all right? So let's say my project, the project that the clothes we're wearing right now, right? We're calling it Model for a Cause. And it has to do with sustainable fashion. And we're doing it here in Greece with our reality, with our challenges, the economic crisis, blah, 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 all the package. So how can Model for a Cause use Impact On, the platform that Impact On is providing to us social entrepreneurs, in order to scale, let's say, to Latin America?
Okay, I like this game. So let's play the way I would play with any other project that I, cross along my way. So I know the project, someone has told me about it. I see that it's actually very effective. It's giving visibility to a problem that is actually very contemporary, very, very important. Fashion, sustainability, environment, climate change, women empowerment. So if I would just met you, I would like, okay, Ioanna, tell me how you do it. What is the formula? What do you need to make it work right now? I know that it is, right now, secondhand clothing, fashion, ethical fashion type of topic, but tell me which are the actors that you involve and what is the value proposition of the project?
All right, so we're actually targeting women that are consuming and they're also environmentally aware, like fashion industry is the second most polluting industry right now, only second to the oil industry. This is like huge, and like barely anybody speaks about it, right? I mean, imagine that this t-shirt, in order to be produced, we need to spend like 1,900 liters of clean, potable water in order to just create one like cotton t-shirt. So we're targeting these women, right? And our stakeholders are the partners that are doing things about the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, or the global goals of the United Nations in Greece right now. And also we're targeting the rural population in Greece and Kyrgyzstan that are going to actually create the new clothes that we will be doing, that are created in an ethical way.
So I like how now I'm interviewing you instead of you're interviewing me, right? So your project has an impact that is ecosystem-based. You connect all these different stakeholders with a value proposition that is actually building momentum up to another type of impact, which is something very important when you think about it. Sometimes you look at a project and their value proposition is doing the same thing over and over again. Like their impact is not, building up or developing towards any other goal, which by itself already talks about a type of impact that is not desiring to grow or to get to another stage. So you're now getting started with, involving women in using, for example, second-hand clothing to build the necessary momentum to then empower women from rural communities, right? In developing sustainable, ethical fashion, which, as you said perfectly, is one of the most harming industry on the planet. Then I would tell you, well, logistically, even from the women empowerment perspective and the distribution perspective, this cannot really reach a certain scale without incredible cost for operations. So I would tell you, well, yeah, you can do it. We can do it. We can develop a cost structure. But what about an actual much faster scalability that is location-based? Let's analyze your formula. I perfectly see it. I see how it works in a certain city or location, and let's hand it to someone else. Then my next question would be, do you want it to be open source? If it's sustainable where you are, is it just enough for you to grow where you are? Or would you like to do a micro-franchising formula? So you can choose either to liberate and completely put your formula open source for others to use wherever they are, or, still connect with them. I'm not saying that you are going to be separated. Or you can develop a micro-franchising model. So you basically would publish your blueprint in a way that every time that someone wants to join you, and maybe use a branding so that you can actually develop a network or an ecosystem globally, you guys can have a tie with each other, a connection with each other that is also legal and financial. Because why not? We have to get to the point in which impact wants to be effective, not just right. And effectiveness gets along with sustainability as well.
Wow. So you are telling me that right now, me being in Greece and like working from my mobile phone, because this is how we like bootstrap model for a cause. We just said we're going to buy a handful of clothes. We're going to sell them just through our Facebook group, which is secret and closed and, really like private to our members. And that's it. You're telling me that either I can like make it global immediately, or I can even make money out of it by franchising it. And I can do this all through Impact On. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna be tough on her. Don't worry. It's not because she's a friend of mine. So, okay, let me ask you this, all right? My project has kind of a business aspect inside of it, right? So I can understand that with your knowledge, you already have a structure in your mind of how I'm doing it, and you can like duplicate it. What do we do when a project is a bit more abstract or a bit even more social? Like, I don't know, let's say the refugee crisis. We have seen like tons of people doing tons of projects about the refugee crisis or around the refugee crisis. And it's not just this crisis, right? I don't know, in 5 or 10 years from now, unfortunately, we'll have more people migrating from their like homes and towns and houses because of war or because of like difficulties in their daily reality. So there is a huge possibility, because like of the way of the world is working right now, that sadly we will have more immigrants soon. How can we maybe even like think of duplicating something that will relieve these people or even prevent it?
Well, that is actually a very good question. As you know, this is a cause that is really close to my heart. The main reason, one of the main reasons why I'm here in Greece. And actually, today we have data that tells us that by 2044, we're going to have 1 more billion people on the planet. We're going to reach 8.7 billion human beings on this earth. And if you think about it, overpopulation and migration combined with, man-made wars or climate change, we already have more than 65 million displaced people globally. Imagine when we have 1 more billion people. What are the problems going to be about? First of all, base of the pyramid. We're going to have problems with water, access to food, housing, shelter, and then everything else from employment to economic and financial inclusion. So what you're asking is probably one of the most relevant questions that we have right now. And we should never detach from it just because media do. And again, for example, when you look at refugee crisis or the refugee cause, we've seen in the past couple of years that most of efforts were still philanthropic, charitable, big, UN or foundations, but still with this somehow non-profit aid humanitarian approach, absolutely non-sustainable. Even companies that wanted to get involved, be it for the Sustainable Development Goals agenda that at least is trying to give a common language for these efforts, even them keep approaching this with a CSR perspective. While the only opportunity for this to work if we really get to become a system about it. Companies want to get involved. I think it's actually mandatory and a moral obligation for them to be involved, but it cannot be a charitable thing anymore. We actually have to find a way for them to get involved in a way that is not charitable anymore. Like taking these existing formulas and solutions and plug them into the business model of the for-profit world and start, sharing the risk between public and private sector and civil society. And especially for the refugee crisis, I always remember something you told me when I've met you a few years ago. You told me, Meg, before it was political parties or it was civil society, well, now there is a third option, which is social movements. People that really want to belong to a bigger cause on a global level, but they want to act locally, which is everything that matters. Where we are experts, where we know what we're doing, when we are the best people to lead a certain series of actions or projects. So, for example, for the refugee crisis, there is one project, well, many of them really, but one project always pops to my mind because of how incredibly well designed their model of replication is. It's a project that I've met in Cordoba. It was really, a small one at the beginning. I'm like, what do you mean you're going to use PET plastic to do houses? And I immediately thought about, these plastic bottles filled with sand and etc. I'm like, how can that be really innovative? How can that be, be sustainable or whatever? Show me the impact, the evidence. Listen to what this guy has done. So he figured out a way to engage with vulnerable communities and take PET, dirty PET though, so you don't have to wash it, which is one of the main, waste or problems with recycling plastic. You don't have to wash it. Dirty PET. And he managed to take local tools that anybody can find in any part of the world, even the most remote area of Burkina Faso or Latin America, for that matter, and build this open source mechanical press. With this mechanical press, it takes dirty PET from bags to bottles, and you press them till you make a brick. Then you combine bricks, and you close them in layers of wood. And this becomes a hyper light, hyper isolant, and hyper effective energetically panel that you combine and you use to build houses. Social houses, but not the type of charitable one. This is houses that can be 2 floors houses and still be 1/3 of the price of the standard prefabricated social houses that we see. It's entirely built by women because the panels are super light. And he said, Meg, I want to work with Impact On, but on one condition. I want this to be sustainable. I mean, this is a business. This is housing business. I want this to become public programs with the government, working with cooperatives, and even I want Get Europe to manage to not only clean up places from dirt and plastic, not only employ vulnerable people, and women especially, but also to make sure that this housing problem sees the solution come from the people that want to be owning what's happening to them. And the second condition is, if this is going to be for business, I want it to be a franchising. So if you want to run the same business in another country, there is a fee. There is a setup fee, there is a monthly fee, and a shared revenue, so we all win, and we can keep reinvesting in this. But If it's for solving a problem of a local community, so there is no business in it, nobody's making money, we just need houses, done with this, fully open source. Fully open source. Imagine how much impact, and I have goosebumps here, how much impact this can have with this model in every single place in the world where there is vulnerable communities, dirt and waste, people in need of houses, and in lack of employment. Just imagine.
So, openly speaking, you're kind of a Santa of the social programs around the world. Like, I want to do something social, and Santa Claus Meg Pagani is coming over with a bunch of solutions and ideas, and she tells me, you know what, you go, girl. Look at these solutions, look what fits best with what you want to achieve and what you want to do, or what you want to, see being successful at with your life, and you go do it, right? Like, I get it right,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't want, after this video, not anybody to tell me, I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. Impacton.org, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Oh my God, that's unbelievable. Okay, Meg, so how many projects do you currently have online that we can actually take a look at and even duplicate here in Greece, let's say?
Okay, so the funny thing is that, as I was mentioning you, the project is quite young. I started it about a year and 2 months ago. And at the beginning, I had so many assumptions. So the first thing that I did, as you perfectly know, I turned to my community and say, okay, guys, send my way whatever project, on sustainable development you think matters. And that only provided us with almost 3,000 projects to analyze and consider. So the first question for me was, okay, Meg, is it better to work on, even 50 or 100 or 200 projects and try to spread them? Or is it better to focus on 10, 15, 20 for the first period of time and really crack down the code for these, replication-based scalability? So what happened is that we have decided to select a first batch of projects. I think that now on the website is about 15 or 18, divided between interventions and projects. What is the difference? Like, intervention is something that you want to do even in your spare time. Maybe being sustainable, I'm not talking about, pro bono or whatever necessarily, but it's something that you don't have to, let's say, keep working on in long term. So it's not like you found an organization or you found a project that then you have to sustain over time. On the other side, it is what we call, projects, the ones that you want to set up and then keep running and improving and developing over time. And what happened is that we also decided to do a couple of pilots, because I'm like, well, great ideas, amazing concepts, but now let's see if it actually works. Because, as you perfectly said, a lot of people are like, I would love to do something, but I don't know what to do. And to me, really, it's fair. Like, on the media today, we're way more overwhelmed by information about problems than actionable solutions or stuff that we can get involved without feeling that something is off or that we're doing yet again, assistantialism. So I'm like, okay, what is the problem with this and how can we solve it in a way that is really low budget? It has to be accessible. It cannot be based again on advertisement budgets. So we did the first pilot last year on a project. It was Blood for All, community-driven blood donation in case of emergencies in unconventional venues. You're going to love this. So I'm like, okay, guys, I'm going to help you. It's an intervention, clearly. So I am going to just make the blueprint for this project and see how it works, how it spreads. If people really want to act upon problems with something that allows them to have this recipe ready to use. And what happened is that in less than 3 months, just by posting it, like people just word of mouth, just network effect, were replicating it and using it in 19 countries. But I remember a lady from Cameroon that was just connected with the communities of global shapers that were spreading this project. There was an accident in Cameroon when we were running this pilot. A train derailed, and there was a huge problem with accessibility to blood. And I remember this lady reaching out to us and say, you have no idea. We are using this manual to set up emergency blood donation spots in gyms or in schools. And 2 days ago, lady, when I was catching my plane from Rome to Athens, I was eating something and there was a lady there and she started talking to me and I'm like, where are you from? And she's like, Cameroon. And I'm like, oh God. Last time I spoke with someone from Cameroon, this happened. And she's like, wait, really? Because I remember communities suddenly setting up emergency blood donation spots when this accident happened, and I had no idea. So imagine my face. And this year again, so we're like, okay, we're going to keep doing this. That was the pilot that told us, guys, you're onto something. Hold in there. Just keep going. So we have decided to do another pilot this year, this time on climate change. So we've taken a project that is actually an ongoing project in Argentina that works on climate change for education and do these manuals that can be used by teachers, professors, youth leaders, or activists to use with their groups and youth communities. So it can be run as an ongoing project or an intervention. And we're like, okay, this manual in particular that does an activity of a few hours, really accessible, but it highlights the fundamental connection between the daily consumption of food and how that, your own choices, affect climate change. And we're like, okay, let's spread this in English and in Spanish with a renewed and improved model of the blueprint. And lately, it's 2 months now almost since we launched it, and it's already more than 80 cities that are actually using it or about to use it over the next weeks and months. So again, do people want to act upon these problems? Yeah, they want. Absolutely, they want. Do companies want? Absolutely. Do activists, do NGOs want to do it in a more sustainable way that doesn't drain them with the current models for charity? Yes, they want. And the only thing they were interested in doing is providing all these recipes and ingredients so that at least it becomes less risky, less scary, and we can figure out that when we want to act upon something, there is someone else in the world that not only wants to do the same, but might have done it already and might be interested in sharing with you what they've done because they figure out that it's better and more important that we all take responsibility for this instead of, locking the solution in my organization because it's mine, it's my treasure. That's what we're off to do.
Okay. I tend to thank people for coming to the interview and for sharing their peace of mind with us. I can do it today because I want to thank you for the work you're doing, for the people you inspire, and for all these lives that you affect. I'm really honored to be your friend, and I'm really happy because we're going to share this interview. And I know that if I saw this interview when I was a student and I had so much time in my hands and so much vigor and so much passion to change the world, I was, I was so up in the clouds when I was younger that I thought that the world can change in 1 or 2 years. Now I don't believe that. But I do believe that the world can change. Maybe not in 1 or 2 years. Maybe it will take more than 1 or 2 people, more than one Meg or one Ioanna, right? But I know it can change. I can see it changing through you, through my efforts, through all our common friends' efforts, right? And I know that if I was a student and I saw this interview and entering Impact.org, I would definitely have found my way sooner. So I know this interview will also help a lot of people, and actually it will be tangible that we are making the world a better place. It's not just these fluffy things that, be the change you want to see in the world. Yes, someone said that and it was really brilliant. What do you do? Now people can do. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for flying all the way to Athens to show us how it's done, all the way from Latin America. Thank you for being active and for being you. Thank you.
Wow, really, it's just an honor for me. Everything that I'm doing today is also thanks to the people that are in my life since so long and not for 1 second told me, no, Meg, I'm sorry. It's impossible. Now, we are the generation that have figured out that impossible is not a word, is not a thing anymore. Too complex is not impossible. Too complex is, well, let's sit down and figure it out. And as you said, everything we have to really understand is that everything is connected. These clothes we're wearing are connected with a much wider ecosystem and series of actions and outcomes and outputs that till yesterday it's fine. We didn't know. We couldn't know. Now we do know. And again, was it Spider-Man? Was it someone else? From great powers, great responsibilities, information is power. We have to stop thinking that information is power just because you can post a phrase somewhere on the internet and a lot of people can do it, or a lot of you can read it, or a lot of people can be influenced by what you say on that internet, on that platform, on that social media. If everything is connected, is way more about how you choose to be this tiny grain of sand, how you choose to act upon what you see around you, if you want to respond with the same violence we perceive, or if you want to understand that it's not about bad guys and good guys, it's not black and white, there is not going to be any winner. We're on an evolution path, and it's all about how many people will choose to come alive, and how many people will choose to take responsibility in a way that doesn't feel like a weight, but an opportunity. Because it is our opportunity to figure out that it's the first time in the history of humanity that every single human being has the knowledge and the potential to not only dream about a better future, but doing something about it, not even alone, not this hero thing that we see so much, but together, wherever we are, but together. That's all it matters to me, really. So thank you for allowing me to share my story, because it really means a lot to me. Thank you.